Uh, okay, everybody. It is Saturday, the 18th of July, and it's in the early evening. And if you recall, we began our course with discussion of the nominal rate of interest. And the nominal rate of interest has 5 components. It can be deconstructed, if you will. And let's see if I think I'm looking at the wrong monitor, but anyway, if you look on this monitor, let's see if we can bring it up. I have the handout on it, so I'm not sure how they bring the handout up onto the monitor you're looking at. Let me see if I can stop the video. Hold on. And goodness. Well, let's see. Well, we'll maybe just do without it this time. What you can do is find out handout number 1. Find it in on the blackboard under course documents. It says handout number 1. And let's see there we go. And we want to summarize a little bit what we discussed yesterday, 2 days ago. The first component, pure interest, goes by other names: originary interest, time preference rate of interest, results from the evaluation of time preference that is wired into all of us and manifests itself in the height of the interest rate, and also there's a component in the unit price of a good, and that would interest there is an income. It would be an addition after costs of production, but we're not going to go into that. That's too abstract. And so the evaluation of time preference is wired into our minds, and we prefer present consumption to future consumption. And here we have to interpret consumption very broadly. Consumption, anything can be defined as anything we want to do, whether we want to consume a bottle of wine or specialty cheese, whatever. We'll do it now as opposed to later, other things being equal. But also, what if you have surplus funds and you want to invest them rather than give them out in the form of a loan? You invest, start your own business, or just invest in the stock market, whatever, or fixed income markets. You can do that. You can put aside funds for a rainy day, and this in our meaning of consumption, okay, is a very broad meaning of consumption. We will prefer to take care of our own wants and needs first, other things being equal. And so my job as a would-be borrower is to get you to reverse that valuation. And remember, I tried to do that. I assumed that interest is unknown, and I proposed to borrow $1,000 from each of you for 1 year's time. And you know, we're hampered by the fact that we don't have an actual physical class where we all meet, and you would see this for yourself that most people would not make a loan to me because they have funds and they would want to spend those funds on themselves or their family. And so my job is to get the a person who has surplus funds to prefer future consumption to present consumption, meaning to take the $1,000 and make a loan to me, and I will pay back that loan in 1 year's time. But again, most would not do it. Some in the class would, but there's such thing as psychic income, doing somebody a favor to make life a little bit easier, that type of thing. But for most of us, we would say no. And therefore, I, as the would-be borrower, say to you, well, in 1 year's time, I'll give you $1,010. And still that's no takers, and then maybe 1,020, 1,030, 1,040. And as I go up, the number of takers increases. And hypothetically, I think we settled in the lecture the last time at $1,090, and would pretty much get everybody to agree to participate in a loan that way. Now, remember, there were critical but very unreal assumptions made. First, that interest is unknown. Of course, interest is known in our world today. And then we have God Almighty standing right by my right shoulder. And if I go to default, he will make the creditor, meaning you, whole. There's no risk in losing your money, and he will make me whole as well. So we have that very unreal assumption, and it's in tonight's lecture that we withdraw that assumption and talk about the so-called debtors risk premium, a default premium. And it's rather interesting to study this. But then we have, if you look at the handout, inflationary price premium, and we have a liquidity premium, which is interesting, but relatively insignificant. And then we have to account for the monetary policy actions of the central bank. Now, you all have mistakenly heard that there's a new normal with interest rates. This is nonsense. The interest rates have been brought down by the central bank. They've purposely lowered, and the central bank tries to keep them lowered at this point in time. So the very low interest rates we have are really not market determined. They are the dealers for the government, the market dealers. They're told what level the interest rate should be, and they in turn tell everybody who would participate in the market. Everybody goes along because the market rate of interest, that is the nominal rate of interest, is way below what it should be, and nobody's going to contest that. And business very much likes low interest rates, and but they don't have the concept of what the rate of interest is that your professor does, and which I want you to learn. So our first component is the pure rate. That's the name I prefer. And it is the rate of time preference, which means the valuation of time preference has established this component. This is the component that is of academic interest. And, in a world that is little trouble, that has very little disequilibrium, this is the chief component to be explained. And it's the academic component, if you will. And we came up with an estimate of the time preference rate of interest, and that estimate was between 4 and 4.25%. And I've used that 4.25% ever since I was a college student many, many years ago. So strange though it may seem, the estimate for the time preference rate of interest, pure interest, 4 to 4.25%, has remained constant for approximately 50 years or so. It hasn't changed, even though in theory, it can change due to what? Change in income or change in wealth. And change in income or wealth, if it's a positive change, will decrease the pure rate of interest. And of course, if our wealth, for whatever reason, decreases, the rate of time preference will increase. So there you have it. That was the our first lecture, other than the preliminary lecture, preliminaries for the course. And today we want to take up the Debtors Risk Premium, which I estimate for the United States government it pays 25 basis points on all securities. People, there is no such thing as a risk-free rate of interest. And a lot of people think that what the government pays for interest is risk-free, but that's just simply not true. And you can go to the sovereign debt crisis of 2012, 2013 to see that governments pay a risk premium. And in fact, at the time, Greece was in trouble. Its financial solvency was doubted, and the nominal rate of interest for the 10-year Greek bond in 2012 was roughly 37% plus change. And today it's around 6%. Things were straightened out after 2013, but the market is quick to attach a debtor's risk premium. And really, every would-be borrower pays a risk premium, including governments. And if you need any further discussion of U.S. government debt, about 4 or 5 years ago, S&P lowered the U.S. government debt rating from AAA to AA. So, AA is still a very good rating, but there is a debtor's risk component to the nominal rate of interest. It's added on to the pure rate. And so my casual empiricism, my casual estimate, if you will, of what the government pays on a 3-month treasury and really on all instruments is 25 basis points, 1/4%. Very low, but don't you see, the nominal rate increases from 4.25% to 4.50% because of the debtor's risk premium. In other words, the nominal rate of interest is more than just pure interest. It's really an adjustment to the environment that we find ourselves in. And there are 4 components we've got to talk about, and one of them is the debtor's risk premium. And every would-be debtor, every borrower, if you will, pays a risk premium. Now, here's the way we want to consider the risk premium. It's very much like the automobile insurance we have. In other words, lenders make mistakes, lending officers make mistakes at banks and other lending institutions. And of course, entrepreneurs take on loans and they make a mistake. They shouldn't, in hindsight, they really shouldn't have undertaken a loan, a direct investment in a category, in a X sector, let's say. So there's got to be a way for the creditors to make back that money. In one loan, huge sums can be lost, and there's got to be a way to make it back. And so every debtor, would-be debtor, pays a debtor's risk premium. And with the United States government, it's 25 basis points. With big, large corporations like Apple and Google and Exxon and so on, maybe the debtor's risk premium is 37.5 basis points, which is what, 3/8%. And then we look at other corporations, other firms, other individuals, and for mid-cap firms, they may pay 1/2 or 5/8 to 3/4% debtors risk premium. And for small business, they pay an even higher rate. Then we could come to individuals. What about individuals like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and Carlos Slim and a few other people, or mega rich, if you will, and they would probably pay what the big corporations like Google and Apple pay, 3/8% or even 1/2. And again, the idea here is to collect funds like an car insurance company does for untoward events. The automobile insurance premium that you pay is collected, and all of it is put into a pool, and then the insurance company will pay all the claims, and one hopes the pool is big enough to take care of all claims, and that you see the height of the debtor's risk premium becomes very important, and it's determined in the marketplace. What are we saying? That the creditors set that rate, and it's a very, you really have an experienced employee do this for you, someone who has a great deal of experience in the fixed income markets. And if the risk premium is not set high enough, as it should be, then the losses from bad loans is not canceled out by collecting that premium, but it's not high enough. And what if the default premium is set higher than it should be, rather than lower? Then the lending institution, say a bank, finds itself charging interest rates that are higher than the marketplace, and therefore they wouldn't get the business. So it's a very delicate matter to set this debtor's risk premium. And again, for the U.S. government, my casual empiricism establishes roughly a 25 basis point estimate, which increases the nominal rate to 4.5%. You have 4.25% pure interest, and then you have the 25 basis points for the debtor's risk premium. It's very, very important to realize that the risk premium reflects a discrimination, rightly understood discrimination by creditors as against debtors. And so the extremely wealthy individuals like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett would pay a rate equivalent to a big, large corporation, a little bit more than the US government. And then we have other wealthy individuals. They pay a little bit more than the 5/8, and then we get to middle income individuals and more than that. And so and then we finally get to college students, many who don't have a job, and they would pay a higher debtor's risk premium still. So there is a discrimination there. And what are the factors which govern making a loan? Well, there's two really big ones that have to be accounted for, in which the debtor's risk premium accounts for. Number one is trustworthiness. Now, let me sugarcoat this one for a little bit. Many of you have brothers and sisters, and invariably when I ask in our actual classes whether they have a brother or sister who hasn't paid them back for a loan, almost everybody raises their hands. And then I catch them and I say, well, maybe you're the brother or sister that has been lent money and has not paid back your brother or sister. So, good people, if you will, sometimes they're not trustworthy, especially in family relations. I have an older sister, love her dearly, but she will come and tell everybody in the family, oh, she didn't bring her wallet or purse, or that she's short on money. Can she borrow $100? And we all know that she's not going to pay us back, so it's a gift to her. Okay, and there is a reservation um, amount that I will not give to her. It's about $500. She doesn't know that, but if she were to ask for $500, she wouldn't get it. She has asked for $200 and $300, and she got it. And yes, she didn't pay it back. So we know that when she asked for the loan, but that's my sister. But what you should know is that there are lots of sharks in the water out there in the actual world we live in. There are people out there who will borrow money, make themselves look as honest and dependable as possibly any individual can be, and have absolutely no intention of paying back the loan. I have a very good college friend, well, really a graduate student friend, and he's Thai, and he in turn, his best friend is Thai, and when they were undergraduate students, like with all of us people my age, all of a sudden MasterCard and Visa sent out cards, so everybody enrolled at colleges and gave them a MasterCard or Visa card, usually with a maximum limit of $5,000. And so my friend, his friend, my goodness, he decided to run up both cards and then go back to Thailand and not pay the $10,000 that he owed. Well, what I'm trying to say, what I'm leading up to, is that the money and capital markets of this world have a very, very large memory, exceeding the average lifespan of an individual. And if you don't pay back, then your credit is affected. And I can tell you that that person did eventually pay it back because he wanted more credit through time. It used to be, before the modern era, before Illinois and California and a few big cities which have gotten into trouble borrowing money, used to be the state of Louisiana paid a higher nominal rate of interest by virtue of the Debtors Risk Premium, because they floated a bond issue immediately prior to the Civil War and then decided not to pay it back. Well, the money and capital markets remember that, and yes, a lot of time has gone by, and there's a tremendous stream of income from taxpayers down there, and so the loans have been made to Louisiana, but always at a slightly higher rate to make up for the bad loan that was made to Louisiana way back when, before the Civil War. So we have trustworthiness, and people, if it's trustworthiness that you well, that say you apply for a car loan, and if it comes down to your trustworthiness, and if there's a doubt of your trustworthiness, you will not get the loan. Okay, you will not have access to the money in capital markets. So trustworthiness, though not as significant of a factor as the second one I'm about to mention, it is a factor for some people. And this very factor is at work, and what you want to do through time is always maintain a solid individual credit rating. If you've taken out a loan and you get into trouble, what you should do is call up the creditor, call up the lending officer of a bank or the lending officer of another lending institution who has lent you the money. Keep him or her informed. If you've made a mistake, admit to it. And what you don't know is that because the debtor's risk premium shows this, the creditor ties his or her fate to that of the borrower. Too many bad loans will cause the lending institution to have a liquidity problem, meaning it's illiquid and possibly insolvent. So, it's since they do tie their fate with you, the borrower, and then they're going to try to come to an accommodation to at least get some money back on a loan. It's better than $0, 0 cents on the dollar of a loan. So they may ease the terms and they may help you get back on your feet. And you will find them ready to meet with you and to try to achieve an accommodation. Remember that. Now, the more usual factor which governs the debtor's risk premium is the economic soundness of a firm or an individual. And this is really the basis for the discrimination that we just talked about, that government and big corporations and high net worth individuals like Warren Buffett, they will pay a lower debtor's risk premium than, say, you and I. What are we saying? The person has a higher paying job, his job history has been stellar, there's a steady stream of income coming in, he hasn't had bad loans, he has collateral, if you will, to back up some of the loans. For a housing loan today, it's recommended 20%. In the Great Recession time, there was zero collateral. So the debtor's risk premium is determined by not only trustworthiness, but by economic soundness. And we have a difference in individuals. And, maybe your neighbor has the very same type of job you do. Maybe you're in the same department as he or she. And your neighbor has maybe defaulted on a car loan or has had trouble paying off a housing loan. And then he applies for a new loan for something else. And it happens to be something that you too are applying for a loan. You'll find that he pays a higher nominal rate of interest by virtue of paying a higher debtor's risk premium than you would, who has a very trustworthy and have a stellar history of making payments, paying off your loans, and, well, Bob's your uncle. There you go. So the debtor's risk premium is always there, and everybody pays it, including governments. The so-called risk-free rate of interest is nothing more than pure interest considered a loan, but you can never, ever find the risk-free rate of interest or pure interest alone without an attachment of a debtor's risk premium. And also, if there's an inflationary price premium, the instrument itself may be highly marketable, so there's a liquidity premium. And of course, we have to account for government activity. The low interest rates we have today is because of the US government, meaning the Federal Reserve, with the help of the Treasury, has decided to lower nominal rates of interest. And they are increasing the supply of money and credit. The lower rates are the incentive, lower interest expense, to undertake more loans, and therefore to attempt to expand production, which is really what a definition of the boom of the business cycle. So there we have it. Again, a good estimate for the government is about 1/4%, meaning 25 basis points. So that I will end the lecture here today for the second component of the nominal rate of interest. I'm going to follow up with the third component tonight, and maybe the fourth one as well. So thank you for listening, and I hope you're putting up with this very hot weather and humid weather. And also, I hope that you're safe, you're practicing social distancing, wearing a mask, obeying lockdowns, and being very, very careful for you, yourself, and your family. So, okay, so that's the end of our, what would be what I call lecture 3. Thank you.